Welcome to the Shared Practices podcast. We are doing a season on growth, and we have a unique opportunity today. We tend to be a very GP-focused show on general dentistry, and we don't get enough specialists. Specialists are definitely underrepresented on our podcast. So a few of you may know that I've had a recent TikTok addiction, a very unhealthy relationship to TikTok. I kind of wrote it off for a long time as a kids app, and about 3 months ago, downloaded it and just got pulled really, really deep in off the deep end, and found some incredible content creators on this app, one of which is Dr. William Graves. And we have with us today Dr. Graves, oral surgeon from Amarillo, Texas, owner of Amarillo Oral Maxillofacial Surgery. So Dr. Graves, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Richard. I'm excited about this. Excited about this podcast.
This is going to be fun. And when you've got a follower who's kind of consumed a lot of your content, it's like they kind of already know you. People tell me that on the podcast is like a dental students listen to our show and then they meet me. Kind of the same thing here. I feel like I know you and your team from your TikTok. Do you get that from patients quite often?
I mean, I probably get one patient every day from our social media, and recently it's been heavily weighted on like TikTok, but it's amazing how many people actually follow our TikTok. I was in Vegas maybe 2 months ago. I was checking into my hotel at the Encore, and I do my whole check-in thing. And the girl who's checking me in, she's like, "Can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Sure." She's like, "Are you a dentist?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Why do you ask me if I'm a dentist?" And she's like, "I follow you on TikTok." And I mean, that was some random person in Las Vegas who was working at the Encore who asked me that question.
Yeah, no, it's. The thing that has I've realized recently is kind of the reach and the growth of TikTok. Unlike other platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, it seems to be hard to get put out to a wider audience, whereas TikTok, it actively is doing that and everyone's on board with it and people can really blow up and grow quite a bit. So we'll get to that in a minute. That's going to be part of the interview, but I don't want the audience to think this is going to be another Dr. Lowe talks about TikTok. I want to hear your journey. So I want to hear your journey as an oral surgeon. Where'd you go to dental school? Where'd you do your residency? And did you know in dental school that you wanted to be an oral surgeon?
You know, I went to dental school at the University of Louisville. And I mean, I went to dental school with the intentions of being a dentist. I mean, I had no intentions of being an oral surgeon. And maybe that was due to, lack of my knowledge of what oral surgery was at the time. And I think a lot of people in undergrad probably fall into that category. And honestly, I just felt lucky to get into dental school and I was going to be a dentist. There's a good feeling when you get accepted, as you know, into dental school. You're like, oh man,
oh yeah,
I have a career. I'm not going to be homeless, probably. I'm going to make decent money. I'm such a great, especially coming from my background. I mean, I didn't have doctors and lawyers and professionals in my family. My mom worked at a gift shop as a cashier and my dad drove a truck. So, I mean, I didn't really have that background. So for me to get accepted to dental school was really a good, big feeling for me to have. So going to dental school, I just had the intention of being a dentist. And that was like that, for the majority of the way through dental school. And, when you got in the clinic, the things that I really enjoyed doing was I enjoyed the oral surgery, but I also enjoyed, the prosthetics and crown and bridge. And I mean, in my clinic in dental school, even though I'm an oral surgeon right now, I did more crowns than anybody in my entire clinic.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, some of that was because I'm from Louisville and that's where I went to dental school. And so I had the advantage of having family members who didn't have a lot of money, who don't mind going to the dental school, don't mind me experimenting on them. And they would come in, I would do I think in 1 week in dental school, I cut like 21 crowns in 1 week.
Holy cow.
I didn't do hundreds of crowns in dental school. That was one like special week that I did. I mean, I think I ended up doing about 70 crowns in dental school, which was the most in my clinic. So going through dental school, I kind of got to the point where I was like, well, I like doing oral surgery, but I like doing pros. So I really thought about doing, one or the other. And I guess the difference between the two was I could always see pros as like maybe being a job to me. I always felt like dentist. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but it still felt like a job to me.
Right.
Versus like oral surgery. I remember going to the oral surgery clinic and that was just fun. I mean, enjoyed doing it. Man, this is fun. And I would go there, on my free time. And then I started taking call with some of the residents, at the university. And I would go to the OR with those guys. And I mean, even basic little stuff now that's no big deal to us, but like putting screws in and helping them put a plate on a fracture, man, it like made my day. It
Right.
actually made me want to go study more. And I said to myself, man, I could do dentistry and feel like a job, or I could do oral surgery where every day, it doesn't really feel like work to me. And I mean, I was lucky enough to get into residency, and I went to the University of Tennessee and I did a 4-year residency. And, finishing my residency from Tennessee, and I wasn't married, I didn't have kids. So it's kind of like the sky was the limit of where I could go. And, there's the natural progression to want to go back home where you're from, and that's where your family from. But at the same point, if you go somewhere else, you kind of reinvent yourself to a certain extent.
Sure.
And going home, I was always Billy from, the kid who grew up in the neighborhood, versus I could go somewhere else and all of a sudden I'm Dr. Graves when I show up.
Right.
So I kind of looked at it as an advantage of going somewhere else. And I really researched, really in depthly 40 cities in the US. And I knew everything about the city. I knew how many dentists were in the city. I knew what the population was. I knew how many orthodontists were there. I knew how many oral surgeons were there. I had circles drawn on maps. So what the draw was to these areas. And I mean, it was a really complex system that I had. And it really came down to one or two places for me. It was Bend, Oregon, it was Amarillo, Texas.
Huh.
And I ended up choosing Amarillo as the place to start my practice because I knew I wanted to start my own place.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was one of those places that you could really go into and be busy right off the bat, just based on numbers, just based on the need.
So I got to stop you here because this is like right in our wheelhouse of, crazy maps on the walls, circles drawn. Like that's what we're all about here because we're about helping young dentists find or buy a dental practice or do a startup. And some of this legwork, unless you do it, no one is going to serve this information to you on a plate. So you're like, I want to be right out the gate, just doing extremely well, in demand. What were some of the biggest factors as a specialist? How small was too small for you? How many GPs were you looking at? Okay, I need at least this many general dentists or this large of an overall population. Do you remember any of that from when you were thinking about all of these things?
It had to be a city big enough with a decent airport for me.
Okay.
Right? So I'm going to a smaller town. I'm a single guy. If I want to get out of town, I want to have a lot of convenience to be able to go to the airport. And Amarillo, you can go to the airport and you can change flights once and you can essentially be anywhere in the world. There's direct flights to Dallas and Houston and Denver, which are major hubs for me. So once I reach those areas, and I travel lots. I mean, 2020 was a different year, but I've traveled, 60 countries since I finished my residency. So I do a lot of traveling anyways. So it was very important to me that I was in a city that I could kind of get away from if I needed to. Right. And one thing that I did in residency, I would call the oral surgeons in Amarillo and I would act like I was a dentist in Memphis. And I would say, hey, look, I got this kid. I'm a dentist in Memphis. I got this kid moving to Amarillo. They need their wisdom teeth out. When can you see this kid for a consult? And they were like out 2 months for a consult for wisdom teeth. And if you're an oral surgeon, I mean, that consult really takes like 5, and it's easy money. I mean, that's where we make our money, right?
Right.
And that consult's going to take 5 minutes. And if they're pushing that consult out for 2 months, I was like, man, that has got to be a gold mine for me when I show up at that place.
Right.
Now, there were some obstacles to overcome when I showed up because, Amarillo, Texas is a really close-knit community. And oral surgeons here and the dentists, they all go to church together.
The old boys club.
Together. It's a good old boys club. And, I'd go see these dentists and a lot of times they'd be like, well, we really like the other guy in town. Our kids go to school together and I'll probably start sending him my patients. I'll probably continue to do that. So, right away I thought to myself, I remember leaving an orthodontist office and saying, okay, that's fine. You don't have to send me your patients. To myself, you don't have to send me your patients. I'm going to get them anyways, right? I'm going to get them somewhere else. I'm going to get them from the neighbor. I'm going to get them from somewhere. I don't know where it's going to come from. But so I knew I had to work hard. And that was always the philosophy I was preaching to the staff is that, we have got to be better, 10 times better than everybody else. Because at a certain point, and now is a lot different than it was 12 years ago, at a certain point, people aren't going to go to where their dentist says you need to go to. They're going to research themselves. They're going to go on the internet. They're going to look me up and then look the other guys up. And whoever has the best reviews and whoever has the most stars, that's probably where they're going to go to. 15 years ago, the dentist would refer somebody to the specialist, and they really didn't have a good avenue of researching who that person was. They could look them up maybe if they had a board thing, but it wasn't the way it is now. So they would trust their dentist, and whatever their dentist said, that's what they would do. It's not that today. And I think that you'll see a lot of specialists really are playing catch up now when it comes to, that direct to consumer marketing, because that's where everything is right now. And like I said, I took another dentist to lunch, and he said something like, we really like gifts here. We like gifts. We don't mind if you want to buy our office lunch and buy gifts. We don't mind that. We actually like that. You know what I mean? And I got the impression, I'm like, okay, so these guys really don't care about who's doing the best job.
Right. They want to be wined and dined.
Yeah. What have you done for me lately? Right. And I thought, Kylie, do I want to put myself in the situation where I'm getting the referrals because people think I'm a good oral surgeon, or are they getting the referrals because, I'm buying them whatever they want to get? I didn't want to be like that. And I knew things were going to change. And we really have transitioned our practice to go more direct to consumer than the dentist and taking you to lunch,
Absolutely. Okay. So
people I want to spend time with, I take the lunch, and my friends, I take the lunch. But the days of, kind of begging for the business, to me, those days are over. I would hate to have to live, have my practice living like that.
Absolutely. When you started off, you're now in this beautiful facility. You can see featured very heavily in your TikToks. Were you in like a small medical complex, or how did you do your startup at the very beginning?
I have some pictures, and when we're doing a big business facility, and I'm gonna blow some of these up in black and white just to hang in the building, just so that people who work for the company understand kind of where we started. Because we started with, I think 4 employees, and we have about 160 employees that work with us now in our company.
Wow.
We're doing from 4 to 160. And when I showed up, we had to rent space. So we rented space from a family practitioner, and we were in the same building together. It had the same waiting room. You go out to the waiting room, and you'd have the family practitioner out there. You have people in wheelchairs on oxygen. And then you have like some 16-year-old kid right next to them who's getting their wisdom teeth out. And this office was decorated with all these deer heads and antelope heads all over the waiting room. It had this little bitty small window. It was very institutionalized. And you would walk down the hall, and he had the first 2 rooms on the right, and we had the next 3 rooms as you went down. We had nothing that was plumbed. So everything that we had, all the oxygen and nitrous, were all on portable carts. So we would be in the middle of a surgery, and I would be doing a sedation on a patient, and we'd run out of oxygen.
Oh no!
We'd have to take their gloves off and run down the hall real quick and grab
Get a new tank
of oxygen, screw it in real quick as fast as they could. We'd keep on doing the surgery.
Yeah. So definitely humble beginnings. Tell me about how you decided to expand and grow, not only in an oral surgery direction, but also to include pediatric dentists, general dentists. What was that decision point for you to go from, hey, I'm doing well, I'm practicing, I'm seeing patients and taking care of them, to I think we can scale this and grow this for more providers?
Right. And we've really done that over probably the last 3 or 4 years. The first 9 years, 8 years of the practice, it was real traditional, but we were very aggressive with our marketing. A lot, like I said, a lot of direct to consumer marketing, a lot of social media marketing. Back when nobody was doing it. And I started noticing, an orthopedic surgeon come to me and asked me if they could join my practice. And I'm like, man, why do you want to join the practice? And they're like, man, we just really like what you're doing. I was like, man, what you're doing is like the future, and I want to be a part of something like that. I don't know how to do that. I just want to figure out how to be involved in what you're doing. It makes me excited to see you do your practice. And then we had a plastic surgeon who joined our practice for about 4 years. So we were doing plastic surgery, we were doing orthopedic surgery. I had a pediatric ophthalmologist that was interested in doing. So all these other practices in medicine that were really interested in us. And I looked at it, I knew we were doing a good thing. I was like, man, the thing I know the most about is dentistry and oral surgery. Let's see what we can do to expand that. And if you looked at the market, when I started Amarillo, there was no corporate, and now there's tons of corporate dentistry in Amarillo. And you really see the market starts consolidating, right? And you see the Aspen Dentals and the Abbeville Dentals coming into the community. And then they start bringing their specialists in. And MB2, obviously, we know who they are, right? So they start bringing their own specialists in. And I start looking towards the future. I'm like, what am I going to do when we have 60% of our market is going to be corporate who brings in their own specialists? And then we have 5 oral surgeons here. We're all fighting over the 40%.
40%.
That's continually going to shrink. So what are we going to do? We're going to be fighting over the scraps. I mean, there has to be some way of me protecting my future because, Abbeville is going to, they bring their specialists in. They're not going to let the money walk out. So it's going to be very hard for me to get that business. And, a lot of these corporates try to keep everything in-house. And I looked at it and I said, man, I'm really going to piss everybody off if I open dental offices, right? And that's always the big concern. But I started looking at my numbers and I told myself, the day that I get 50% of my patients from non-dental referrals is the day that I'm going to do it. And I hit 51% and we started a pediatric dental practice. And I did that one first because to me that felt safe. There was a lot.
No one's freaking out if an oral surgeon and a pediatric dentist kind of team up. That's right. Kosher.
And the beauty of that was that gave me patients to refer, right? So at some point, these pediatric patients are going to be adults, and then I can take these and I can refer them to the dentist that referred to us in our practice, or I can send them out to the orthodontist. So it gave me somebody to refer. So we developed that practice, and pediatrics, we have 4 locations right now.
Wow.
And then we had a dentist that was looking to sell. He was going to retire, and they were a really good referral for us. And I thought to myself, if somebody else buys this practice and they don't send me these patients, I'm going to lose a lot of money, right? So I started doing money. I started doing the numbers. I said, you know what? Let's just buy this practice. And kind of pissed people off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I looked at the staff. I said, you know what? We're all in now. We're all in. And that first dental practice we bought last January. And even in COVID, we have, how many practices we have now, Chris? Dental, just last year we bought about 5 or 6 dental offices last year in 2020 with COVID.
Wow.
And we're looking at 5 practices right now, and we're projected to buy at least 10 practices this year. And now we're expanding into markets that are outside of my referring area. And I think that's the thing that makes us a little bit different than a lot of, and I'm a DSO. I had to file as a DSO in the state. It would make me a little bit different than most DSOs is because we're specially driven, and having the oral surgery practice, especially when we do these de novo sites, really financially helps support this until they become profitable. Because if you look at dental offices now, in the old days, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, huge margins, right? Huge margins, right? Dentists were making 40% margins. And you give somebody in the restaurant business, you tell them you can make a 40% margin. There's no way they're going broke, right?
Right.
But now the margins are shrinking down smaller and smaller. And it's harder, as a general dentist to open these multiple locations because, it takes, 12 to 18 months to become profitable. So what are you going to do while these things are losing money? And we were lucky enough that the oral surgery office supported some of those offices when we were starting them up.
So have you done any de novos at this point, or are you all acquisitions up till now?
No, we have some de novos for sure. Yeah.
How many have you done?
We've done 2 de novos.
Okay.
We've done 2 de novos, but we also have 2 satellite offices, one in Oklahoma and one kind of on the border of Texas and New Mexico. Those are de novos, but they started out as oral surgery offices and pediatrics, and they're slowly being converted over to the dental offices.
Okay. Are so all 3 in one house, or you're kind of switching them over?
Eventually everything will be under the Full Smile Dental. The Amarillo Oral Surgery, we're branded so well. That's always going to stay the same. But the Full Smile Dental is going to be the future of the company, and that's where everything's going. Everything's going to be under that name.
Wow. That's incredible. I did not expect to be having this conversation when we kind of started this. So this is really cool. In our audience, we tend to have and attract a lot of entrepreneurial dentists who, are looking at, how do I run a practice better than anyone else? How do I provide better patient care? How do I market better? How do I be a better leader? And if you can nail all those things, then it's like, man, we kind of figured this out. Can we do this more than once? Was this a one-off, or can I repeat this? And it sounds like,
yeah, and there's a lot of different things. You learn a lot of terminology these days that you don't learn in dental school, and it's changes. You know what I mean? They don't teach you how to run a business in dental school. As a matter of fact, I think the guy who taught the business classes was a guy who had a failed dental practice, and now he's in academics. I think he taught our business classes, right?
Yeah.
And things like culture, these terms, like it's so important to create a certain culture in your company, because I tell a lot of people now, these millennials, and Gen Zs, I mean, they don't go to jobs because of pay. They go to jobs because of a lot of other things. You got to have the culture in order to retain these employees. And, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but, our social media really helps in the culture of the company. People want to have that Google, Yahoo, fun kind of feel atmosphere that they work in. And at the same time, two things: people want to feel like they're part of something, and people want to feel like they're the best, that they work for the best. And I always use the analogy with people. I was like, you got the Lamborghini factory and you got the Ford factory, and let's pretend that the employees make the same amount of money. The guy works at Ford, that's his job. The guy at Lamborghini, he's proud that he works for Lamborghini. It's the best of the best, and he knows it, and it's a bragging point for him. And people want to feel like they're part of the best. And that's part of our culture that we try to teach, is that patients come to us because we're the best, not because we're taking somebody out to lunch. And that's why we get the patients. And I mean, they realize that.
No, that's fantastic.
The SprintRay Pro 3D printing ecosystem gives you the tools to manufacture all kinds of treatment appliances right in your office. You can use it to make clear aligners, occlusal guards, full arch surgical guides, dentures, and much, much more without the long wait times and fees of traditional labs. Having in-office manufacturing for so many different applications gives clinicians full control of their workflow. You can deliver surgical guides and occlusal guards next day or same day if you need to, or create replacements for lost or broken retainers and night guards on the spot. SprintRay puts the clinician in full control of the digital workflow, enabling dental offices to provide a better patient experience with tailored custom treatments that are affordable and fast. Because SprintRay supports open design formats, you can use any intraoral scanner and dental CAD software. If you want the flexibility of in-office manufacturing without learning design, you can partner with a digital lab for rapid turnaround times. The SprintRay 3D printing ecosystem gives you tools to take control of your digital workflow. SprintRay has done something pretty awesome for Shared Practices listeners. If you go to sprintray.com/SP, they've put together a bundle where if you order the SprintRay Pro, which is the printer that I have and use now, you'll get 2 free bottles of resin that go with that. So once again, go to sprintray.com/SP.
Let's shift gears here, because we've kind of touched on it and hinted at it, but I want to hear early on, what did you do to market? And you've mentioned direct to patient, direct to consumer marketing versus referral type marketing, and you've had to do both. What have you done that worked? And we're gonna say pre-TikTok, because that's just one component of it, and then we'll get into the TikTok side of things in a minute.
One of the big things that we did was Snapchat. That was our first big thing that we did, and I mean we just hit a home run off the gate with that. It was a big risk that we did, because there was this Dr. Miami that most people have heard of, and he was doing these live plastic surgery cases on Snapchat, and even people in our office were talking about it. They would watch it, and they would always try to get me. It's like, Dr. Graves, let's do some surgeries on Snapchat. And finally, one day I said, you know what, let's do it, right? And obviously, I mean, you're taking a little bit of a risk, because I mean, with dentistry and surgery, there's a little things that come unexpected. I mean, it's a little bit unpredictable, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know how many thousands of wisdom teeth in my day. I mean, it's super routine to me. It doesn't mean something bad can't happen. So we just took the risk. We said, I'm just going to start doing surgeries live. And we were one of the first dentists to start doing that. And we were to the point where we were getting about 80,000 views a day on our Snapchat.
Wow.
And then Snapchat did an update and really hurt their platform a little bit, and that really helped Instagram become a lot stronger. So we started putting things over on our Instagram, and we kind of built the Amarillo Oral Surgery brand on Instagram. And then we got offered a TV show, so we did a couple pilots for TLC, and then MTV. A guy from MTV contacted me, and talking to this guy, and I really changed the marketing a little bit. And the reason I did that was I used to really push the brand, Amarillo Oral Surgery, the brand. And now, the TikTok is Dr. Graves, and the Instagram that we're building up right now is Dr. Graves. And even though the Snapchat's still Amarillo Surgery, the guy from LA was like, look, I'm just giving you some advice, is that only so many people will follow a business. Only a certain amount of people are going to follow a business. Everybody will follow Dr. Graves. You can get a gazillion people to follow them, but only so many people who care about following a business. It's still a business, and they don't care about that. They want to follow a character. They want to follow a person. They want to have a connection with somebody and not some company.
Sure.
And if I was you, I would develop the Dr. Graves brand, and that's how we really switched over. And I mean, our Instagram is nowhere near it is for the oral surgery brand, but we're slowly getting it up. It's a slow grind when it comes to social media, especially if you're trying to do everything organically.
Yeah.
Without trying to buy followers. It's a slow grind before you can get there, right?
Absolutely. So when was that? I didn't realize that you had a couple pilot offers there and opportunities. When was that phase when you switched, when you made that mental switch, like a year ago, 2 years ago, to Dr. Graves versus Amarillo?
That was about a year and a half ago.
Year and a half.
It's about right when we started doing the TikTok.
Okay.
Really, the TikTok was so popular. I'm like, why not just take that brand and use the TikTok to push the other brands, and we've done that.
Yeah. So we'll get into, we're almost to TikTok here because you can get me talking about that, and I'm gonna have a ton of questions for you, and we're gonna lose our audience who's not on TikTok, which is fine. Right. They can go do something else. So how much of this did you repeat for your other offices? Because it's one thing to kind of do all of this, you're driving it, you're the personality behind it. You can really do those surgeries and show off those surgeries, to then like replicate that for a pediatric office or general dental office. And then also, how much you had to dedicate a number of resources in terms of hiring people, like people here like Chris in the background. Shout out to Chris. Yeah. Congrats. I know there's a baby somewhere on the way. I saw the baby shower TikTok recently.
I'm going to get all the baby time when I get home.
That's right. So
I have the attitude that if you're going to do something, don't half-ass it. You got to fully commit. You got to go all in. And people aren't successful on their social media because they're not going all in on that something, right?
Yeah.
And you got to take risk, and you take chances, and and I don't have time to follow trends, and I don't have time to edit my videos and to film the videos. And you really need a team to do that. And I think the problem with dentists is when it comes to branding your company, they're not patient about it, and they don't see the value in something like that. I think a dentist looks at like a billboard. They put $2,000 on a billboard in January, and if they don't see $8,000 worth of business in February, all of a sudden it's a failure. They don't realize that the billboard and advertising at the baseball stadium and the football stadium, which we do, all those things are just strengthening your brand. And you may not see it directly, but a year or two from now, everybody knows who you are. And when someone goes to a dental office and they said, you need to go see an oral surgeon, and here's 2 referrals, they look at mine and they say, you know what, I've never heard of either one of these guys. This seems familiar to me for whatever reason. And that may be because they saw that billboard and they didn't realize they were looking at it, or they went to the baseball game and they saw me on the outfield wall and they didn't realize it. But all their stuff in the back of their head, their brain starts putting those things together, and it feels more familiar. And that's why I get that patient. Dentists, awesome. I don't think a lot of dentists see the value in that.
Yeah. And so it sounds like, committing to and sticking with these advertising mediums, and then hiring full-time people that are dedicated to this medium, that are even though, Chris is not pulling out teeth or doing fillings in your office, he has a very distinct concrete function that he's fulfilling all these social media roles. And I don't know what else, Chris, you probably do 100 things I don't know of, But
I just annoy him.
Yeah, you probably just name more things than what he does.
Yeah.
But I mean, all those things are important. And gosh, I mean, there's days I don't feel like doing it and I push him to do it. And then there's some days I'm yelling at him because I don't think he's doing enough. Right. But I mean, it's good having these people on the team, who are pushing me to the limit. Right. Because like I said, I mean, if I just stop doing social media tomorrow, and our social media is just going to just decline as time goes by. And you have to be on that every single day. You have to be doing something. You have to get content out there.
Yeah, it's a content grind, and it takes time and resources to do it. So, well, let's finally make the shift to TikTok, because that's my interest as of right now. So, what was the moment where you're like, okay, we need to get on TikTok? I mean, you were already on the Snapchat train, Snapchat surgery, and interestingly, your TikToks are not surgery based at all. I don't know if I've seen a single wisdom tooth pulled on your TikTok channel.
It's tough. I mean, and it may have changed now, but originally when we were on TikTok, if anything had blood in the video, they would take it down. And we were really seasoned at doing surgery videos. I mean,
no way.
We have lights in the ORs. We have handheld cameras that are HD. We have gimbals, and we have a lot of different tricks that we do to get in the mouth. And because I'm not working in the front, I'm working in the back. I mean, we're back of the cave, so to speak. So we really did a good job at getting in there. And originally we tried to post some of those videos on TikTok and they were taken down. They took them off. We even did videos where we went in there and we blurred out the blood and they still took it down. I don't know how they do it, but they still took it down. And I think that's changed a little bit, right? I think they're allowing a little bit more of that content. TikTok is really wanting people to put more education-based content on there. But our big videos, the big videos that we're known for, are like the recovery room videos.
Yeah.
And I remember the video, it's a famous video of the little boy who went to the dentist and he's in the back of his car. And
David after dentist.
Real life, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that guy paid for his college with that video, right?
Right.
And I go to work and like, well, hell, we got videos 10 times better than this every single day.
Every day. Yeah.
Every day.
You're always sedating people.
And I'm like, how do we get this on video? So, I mean, I talked to our legal team and we got this extensive social media release, HIPAA release that we go through with the patient. And it just took like one or two of those videos. I mean, we had one video that had, was it 35 million views?
Yeah. Well,
Got like 35 million views. I mean, I just threw it on my YouTube, which I don't really do a lot on. And I think it's up to like 12 million views on my YouTube. Without even advertising it. We don't even monetize that. It's
right.
Like 12 million views. So that video right at the beginning really took off and we really got a big following, right off the bat. And when it comes to why we did TikTok, I didn't even know anything about TikTok. Chris was doing our social media and he said, hey, we should get a TikTok.
I was getting interviewed by him and was like, why don't you have a TikTok? He's like, what is that?
Yeah, what's TikTok? And then I'm like, I go on that thing. And like 8 hours later, it's like midnight and I got to go to bed and I just can't get off the thing. I'm just watching video after video after video.
Yeah.
I said, this is going to be the future. And honestly, I kind of saw that a little bit. There's a couple social media conferences, like national conferences, and there's one big one in San Diego. And for years, I send staff to the social media conference. And they'll go and there's nobody else like in the medical field there. And when we first started going, people would be like, you guys are a dental office. Why are you at a social media conference for? And I was like, we see the future. It's going to be here, right? This is the future. And years ago, they said, at some point, there will be no more pictures on social media. Everything is going to be a short video.
Mm-hmm.
And when TikTok took off, I remembered, them saying that. And I'm like, okay, this is what they talked about. This is going to be the next big thing. And it took off. And you're seeing that with Instagram as well now.
No, and the thing I love about TikTok is that it punishes and rewards good and bad video content. So it forces you with the constraints of 59 seconds. You can't take a long time. You got to get to the point. You got to hook them. You got to be interesting. You got to deliver value. And if it's really good, it blows up. It does very well. The algorithm knows that people are watching it, liking it, sharing, commenting, and it'll continue to push it out. And it grows and grows and grows and grows. And so, if you, my hypothesis is that if you can create good videos that perform well on TikTok, those will perform well anywhere because you've mastered getting people's attention and being fun and entertaining, engaging, educational, whatever it is. And so I'm all in. I have like 90 followers. I am at the very beginning stages of TikTok. And I'm getting out of the Army here in a few months, and I'm going into a denture practice that I'm going to add implants to. And so, in my head, I'm kind of living in my own head of all the ideas that I'm going to do and the things that we're going to do. But I'm committed over the next few years to figure out, okay, how can I make video creation easy for myself? What are people interested in? How can we create our own little brand? I love, you guys have basically taken like Parks and Rec or The Office and then inserted it into an oral surgery office. Like that is like Dr. Graves' channel is this little Parks and Rec of an oral surgery office. And I love it. Was that intentional from you guys, or did it kind of emerge organically?
No, both. And I tell Chris, we go through certain scripts, and we try to make the employees have a certain personality, right? And I tell Chris, I was like, no, that's not Angel. Angel has to be Angel. He has to be the one. That's his personality. We got to stick to the script. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean, it really adds to the culture of the practice, because those employees are not just oral surgery assistants now. They're like local celebrities. I mean, they really are. They go everywhere, and they're recognized, and they want to work hard. They want to keep their job. I mean, if they didn't work for our practice, to a certain point, they would lose their identity, right? So, I mean, that really helps with the morale and the culture of the office, having, people with these roles in the practice.
Yeah, I'm Team Angel. I liked his photo on Instagram here today. So,
right. But I think longevity, to me, honestly, if I think about social media and how am I going to take this thing for the next couple of years, if I just did bloody pictures of teeth and surgery, at some point, people are going to get numb to that, and it's not going to be the cool new thing. They've seen it a million times. You're going to lose those people. You got to hook them in with something. You need a storyline for people to keep watching your social media.
One thing I want to point out, because I think this is very important. What I like about Dr. Graves is that Dr. Graves, it's not all about Dr. Graves. He understands that he has employees with personalities and with talents, and he puts them in front of the camera. He's like, my employees are probably way more interesting than I, all together as a group, and I think that's really cool because, and we try to get back to, we'll tag their own TikToks and stuff like that, so people can go follow them too. So even if they go on to do different things, and move on with their careers, they still have a little bit of piece of, a fan base or whatever that they created with us. And I think I just think that's really cool that he's done that.
That's awesome. And I think that's extremely well done, in that, like, it isn't the Dr. Graves, like it is the Dr. Graves show, but it's not, it's the whole team. Who is it? Devin, I think, from HR.
Yeah.
Is she still with you guys?
She had a baby, and so she's like a stay-at-home mom now.
Okay. Yeah, she dropped off at some point, and I was like, oh, we lost Devin. I loved her. Like, she was like the HR employee.
First personality on her TikTok. She was really the first personality on TikTok, and she was really kind of based on HR off The Office.
Oh yeah.
Like the fun police. I mean, that's not Devin. That's not her character, but that's her character on her TikTok.
Right. I could tell. I was like, oh, they nailed this. Like this, they picked this up from The Office, and they took it and ran with it, and they've knocked it out of the park. I loved it. It's
amazing how willing the employees are to do whatever you ask them to do when it comes to social media. It doesn't matter. Sure. I mean, I have them do things I would never do. You know what I mean? But they're all willing to do it, so they're all in as well.
And that's what I was going to ask. Do you, at this point, I'm sure that it's kind of self-selecting, that people who apply to work for you, they know what they're getting themselves into. Have you had, is there a certain subset of your team that's just like, nope, I don't want any part of it. Thanks, but no thanks.
There are people who don't want anything part of it, especially when we were filming the TV show. There was employees that were adamant, I don't want to be on TV at all. And whenever they came in, we had to talk to the producers and let them know if they're accidentally taken on film, then we got to cut them off. And we filmed for, I don't know, maybe about 2 weeks for the pilot, and we just had those people working at other locations when we were filming.
So now when you're hiring, are you like, okay, tell me about your social media? Like, is that part of the interview?
Well, we look at people's social media before we hire them.
Oh yeah.
I like to look at their social media to see, what are they posting, how opinionated they are.
How do they present themselves? Yeah.
How they present themselves. I mean, because I mean, they're going to be a reflection of our company. And when we put them on our social media, they're going to be little local celebrities, and they're going to have people who seek them out and follow them on their social media. So I have to make sure that's going to be all right with the images that we're trying to portray for the office before we hire these people and put them on a big platform. But I mean, one thing I do bring up casually when we interview is, and I really only interview the people who are working directly at this point directly with me, because we have so many locations. But I'll ask them, is like, how comfortable are you, on camera? Are you comfortable on camera? Because not only do we do the social media, we're on the news all the time. I mean, I think we were on the news like 60 times last year. And we do lots of charity work, and the social media really helps us promote and tell people about the charity work that we're doing. So, I mean, it's another thing I enjoy about it. It really gives me a big platform. And, I can go on the news. And pre-COVID, I had my own TV segment on Mondays. So Monday between 4 and 5, every Monday I had a 10 to 15 minute segment, on the news, where I would just talk about whatever. We talk about stem cells, or we talk about wisdom teeth, whatever I wanted to talk about. I would do that every single Monday.
Oh, wow.
But even that, I probably get 100 times more people who watch the social media that day than I will that watch me on the news that day.
It's amazing how it's just shifted. It's like everyone used to watch the 5 o'clock news, 20, 30 years ago. And now it's like everyone's on their phone. And at this moment, I really see it's TikTok that's taken off. So, and maybe it'll shift. Maybe the algorithm will change and it'll be another platform. But at this point, you've got the system of dedication to content creation, team members who are on board with it, and you're staying on top of the trends. So whatever it does shift to, you'll be right there with it.
Right. And we just shot a commercial out in LA about 3 weeks ago, and we made a version for TV, but our main focus was advertising on YouTube, Instagram, and social media. I mean, that's the main focus of the commercial that we did, because that's where we, with me, my biggest moneymaker for our practice is wisdom teeth. There's low overhead, quick procedures, young, healthy patients. And where are these young kids at? They're on TikTok, right?
Totally. And
we have patients all the time that they come to us because they make their parents take them to us. We got to go see them. I follow them on TikTok. This is where I'm getting my wisdom teeth taken out, Mom. This is where we're going to go.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. Well, do you have any advice for a dentist who's trying to get into social media, get this going in their office, getting into video creation? Obviously, some people, this is not going to be their thing. Like some people, this is, no matter how hard they try, they're not into social media. I think that at some level you need to be a consumer of some portion of it. But for those who are like, okay, I'm on board. I see that the value here. I want to do this. I want to commit to it. What would you tell that dentist, that oral surgeon, that specialist who really wants to get up and running?
I mean, you gotta take yourself out of your comfort zone for sure. Definitely, you gotta take yourself out of your comfort zone. You gotta humanize yourself. I think a lot of times as dentists and oral surgeons, when we see patients, we need to present ourselves as being smart and being educated and being the expert. And we almost spend too much time convincing people that we know what we're doing, right? You kind of that's not really humanizing yourself. And I think the TikTok and the social media really humanizes me to other people. When I walk into the room to do the consult, like you said, they feel like they already know me, right? I've been doing stupid stuff on social media already. And I can be serious there if we want to, or I can joke with them when we go in the room if we want to. I mean, I can go wherever direction they want to go.
Right.
But I think you really got to take yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's really hard for a lot of doctors to do. We're serious on your dental school. You got to be really serious and work hard, and residency is the same way. You get in your private practice. I mean, that's how you have to be. That's how the guys who run the dental society, that's how they are,
Right.
Like advertising, they don't like social media. You get some pushback from those guys, but you really got to take yourself out of your comfort zone.
I love it. I think those two pieces of advice, like you're going to go out of your comfort zone and be yourself, and don't be a stiff, just someone who like wants this image of the perfect dentist. People want to see the real you and what you're like. And so then they know, like, and trust you before they even show up because they've been seeing you online. So This has been incredible. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for answering all of our questions. Really, really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you, Dr. Graves.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We will talk with you guys next time on the Shared Practices Podcast.